And thank you for inviting me. And you were right about, like, we're going down to, as we say in French, le plancher des vaches, and leaving the world of theory and trying to talk about transdisciplinary community. So in preparing this talk, I probably changed my idea 35 times at least, and finished by decide that maybe doing simple things would work. So I don't remember what's the button in Windows. It's
F5.
Oh, it's F5. Here I have it. Okay, thank you. So this is one of the longest titles of a presentation I've ever made. I managed to shorten it a little bit there. Yeah, you helped me with that. I had some influence. I wish to thank all the people that are working with me on this, but I take full responsibility of all the stuff I will be saying, especially if it's funny or weird or anything. So, and that you know, this is work in progress. And there are many questions. And in my abstract, I was talking about challenges of doing this. So I will be first telling you a story of why am I talking about transdisciplinary groups, communities, or whatever. What's this idea about talking about these groups? And I said I would be talking about challenges. There are plenty. And maybe you're going to give me a lot of answers. So what happened with this is I also work in another part of my life as the director of a research center on health, environment, and society. So I do work with a lot of trans, whatever, disciplinary groups that are working with issues that we call wicked problems and that have the tendency to be highly, well, of course, complex, and that you try to solve the problem on one hand, and the other hand is backfiring on you. And the whole idea is that, and when I talk about transdisciplinarity, or transdisciplinary, if I can find a mouse, that's the only theoretical bit of my presentation, I promise. So it's just there are two major understandings of the concept of transdisciplinarity in the literature, but what I'm referring to here is what is said to be transdisciplinary research, and I'm using the group of people working with Paul and H. Arden, and this definition that I borrowed from Paul is, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right also, so meeting of individuals coming from both academic and no academic setting, having distant thought style, and concerned by a socially relevant issue. And this part is important because those people just come together because they believe that it's needed to have all of them together to understand and hopefully solve, or at least partly solve, the problem or find some kind of solution. And because of that, and because there's this belief that we need multiple voices and we need multiple regards to look at that type of problem, there has been a lot of groups that emerged like that, and also a lot of networks and communities of practice, or at least they call themselves communities of practice, and I won't debate the definition of that here, to promote the fact of working together. And despite them talking much about transdisciplinarity, most of the time it's academic groups, or most of the people in those groups are from academia, and it's more often interdisciplinarity than transdisciplinarity. But anyway, this network aim at creating sustainable community, contributing to the development of collaborative relationship between the people in those networks of community. I will call them transdisciplinary community, but that's also another thing that could be debated. So they're trying to put in place some kind of structure where that's going to be helpful for people to collaborate between different groups, different sectors, and so on. And of course, they're receiving grants to do that. And because they're receiving grants, they need to be evaluated. And at some point, some people look at me and say, well, you know, with your social network thing, maybe you could evaluate those groups. And I said, well, yeah, why not? And it started my whole fight with that type of data started just with, okay, I'll help you. I'll do some social analysis to evaluate whether or not we are developing collaborative relationship and stuff like that. And of course, all of you will know that when you start doing things like that, you should always say no when someone asks you to do something like that, because you'll end up spending part of your life on it. And because you become curious, then you start saying, well, this is kind of boring. I mean, I'm counting relationship, and I'm asking people if they've started collaborating together. It's a bit boring, so let's try other things. And because I come from a very qualitative background as well, I cannot do any kind of research without having at least a little bit of qualitative interviews or data or something. And going through this, I realized that collaboration is very interesting, but it's only one type of relationship. Well, we all know that, but that the other types of relationship that people are building are important, so figure that I may look at this. And that could have been the first challenge. What type of questions I can ask people about the relationships they're building, and what should I explore, what is not there, what am I missing, and the whole thing. So doing stuff together would be like contact, collaboration, contact being some kind of, oh yes, we do send, you know, when I find something interesting for him or her, I do send an email, or we exchange relevant information together, but we have not done something together. Well, once people start doing things together, we've created a course together, we published together, this is collaboration. But then, especially in groups like that, most people in groups like that do have very strong social, political opinion, and they share it, because you don't start working that type of field if you don't want to change the world. So, and then you have an opinion about how to change the world. And so we want to know if people are exchanging that type of ideas. And of course, you become friendly and you start exchanging more personal information, and you tell people about personal issues, and you start going out with them on a non-professional basis. So are you having some kind of personal relationship? And also, because I'm very much interested in trust, and I believe that trust plays an important role in building relationships in general, I had to put it some trust question, of course. And, oops, sorry, I'm trying not to make a mess. So I ended up with data about all of those relationships. And then, well, trust is there. And also, well, these people, as I said, they have ideas, they have approaches, they have ways of looking, they have important concepts. So maybe the way they think about those concepts, and maybe that working together, and this is the whole thing about the research that's done about what's inter or transdisciplinarity and how people get a common language and stuff like that, makes you feel that text is important and that what people are saying, or there is some kind of content that we should understand and analyze and And then maybe after all of this, we will understand what makes a transdisciplinary team, group, network, community work or not work. That's the whole idea. I should have stuck to collaborative relationship in counting them. So what I'm going to do today is I will be very briefly presenting 3 of the communities I'm studying now, or trying to study, and using them as an example. And because they are different, and they are, at least to my opinion, different level of success in accomplishing what they stand out to accomplish. And most of the time, I look at these in terms of what they say they would be doing, and also how they are building the relationships, or how the community resilience and relationship building is going. So, but today I will talk more about this building of the community thing. So I gave them names. So the first one is a community that I will call Approach, and is trying to develop and promote an approach dealing with, well, the name of the approach is ecosystem approach to health, or approaches sometimes when we say it. And also this community, which is pan-Latin America. So it starts in Mexico, ends at the tip of Argentina, with a small, tiny group of people in Canada, in Quebec, mostly. It's a trilingual community with French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And it has 119 membership. Now I'm trying, because some of these groups I have longitudinal data. Today I took, and for the example, I took the 3 community, this one after 4 years, because that's what I have in terms of data, and the 2 others after 3 years of existence of the community. So, and you can see the membership, academia, government, civil society. There are 21 countries, 20 Latin American and Caribbean countries, and 1 Canadian. Well, Canada is only 1 country so far. I had to say something like that. And you can see that health people are pretty dominant there. And Tom, you won't be surprised of that. And I go to the second one, which is pan-Canadian, but basically it's mostly 4 provinces in Canada that are together, and they are working, again, in ecosystem approach to health, but very focused on the integration of sex and gender into the research and intervention agenda in environmental and occupational health. And this is the smallest group. It's 50 people, mostly from academia and health again, but now social sciences are pretty, there are a lot of social sciences people there. And natural sciences is always, I don't know why, because we're talking about health and the environment, so they should be more numerous there, but that's for another talk maybe. And then the last one is Pan-Québécois. Quebec is one of the provinces of Canada, and it groups 4 universities, works in the global health perspective, and it's trying, its main focus is the promotion of global health, the building of the global health community in Quebec, and the training of the next generation. So, and this is 100% academia, and there are 4 universities, and it's almost half and half researchers or faculties and students, and health is pretty dominant there. And a lot of medical doctors in that last community compared to the others. So, first challenge, because I work, well, I'm trying to be true to my calling. And I'm working in some kind of participatory fashion. It means that I develop this research with the community, and we decide together which concept we're going to explore. We sometimes decide, well, even the question are decided together, and of course the timing of the data collection has a lot to do with the needs and requests of the community and so on and so on. The challenge is I do not have a straight set of data that, all the communities, I have exactly the same data and it's great, I can compare them. I have to be creative around that. So now let's see all of the problems I'm dealing with. Very, very simple calculation, like just percentage, easy stuff. I have to translate this though. Because the communities have different size, I've decided to use average number of TI by person rather than like density, because density is very sensitive to the number of people in a group. So there are, so what I did for today's presentation is, as soon as someone declares, a dyad is saying that they have a collaboration. Sorry. Again, as soon as they say they have any type of relationship, I say they have a relationship. Okay, so when I say today, when I talk about global relationships or relationship, is only they have any type of relationship of all the list I've shown you. And I forgot to tell you one thing I realized in my about my data. I'll just tell you as I go on. And so there are altogether 12% of the possible. Now, where is the percentage here? I don't know what it refers to. I can't remember why I put a percentage there. Oh, I think it's the mean. It's the total number of relationship possible per individual. Yeah. If we do the calculation, it's going to be 14 divided by 118. If it works, then that's the right figure. So you get a mean. So you can see that the approach group, maybe because they're Latin American, they have a lot more relationships between themselves than the two other groups. And they have a lot more collaboration. And I've been looking at, in each community, I had this question, did you meet this person through the community? And when the answer is yes, I consider this is a new relationship. And so I tried to figure out how much of the relationships are new ones. So 72 in the LAC community, 72% of the relationship that are existing, that are, well, said to be existing, it's a sociometric questionnaire, are new. Because these people didn't know one another before this. Well, most of these people didn't know one another. Of course, there was the group of funders who had worked together before and created this community, but for most of the people, they didn't know one another, and 63% of the collaboration are new relationships, and so on. So we can see that the method group is quite different. It seems to be the whole gang, the old people coming together, and they keep having relationship. It's just a few of the relationship have come from people meeting one another for the first time through this community. So, and I move on, and of course, well, I've said that already, but it's part of the challenges, is what is collaboration, and I have, and I'm not talking about this again, but I have strength of ties, and also the other thing is, it would be interesting to have a baseline. So aside from asking people, did you meet this person in the community, I do have baseline for only 2 of the community that I was able to send the questionnaire way before the first official meeting of the community. So I was sure that I was asking people prior to this grant application, did you collaborate with that person? But it's not something I can do when I get in, like a year later or something like that, I don't trust that people will remember. And then now I have this group, and if we come back here, I could say that the training group really do not have a lot of collaboration out of the new encounters. Is this bad? Or is it, I mean, how many new collaboration do I need to say that the group is doing the right thing, is creating a fertile ground for relationship to develop? I really don't know. I can only compare groups between themselves. How long should this collaboration last, for example? I mean, they write a grant together. They get, in Canada, the equivalent of the NIH, the Health Institutes, they have these meeting grants, and it's a small grant. So we do this meeting grant together. We organize 3 meetings. We have a lot of fun, drink a lot of beer, do a lot of theoretical thinking, and go back home and never meet again. Is this good? Or is this what we're looking for? Or are we looking for long-term collaboration dealing with the complex problem, the complex issues that we're supposed to have in health, environment, and society? That's another question. And also how long, and that's why I'm giving you data that are at least 3 years in the existence of the communities, because, I mean, you don't build relationships, especially collaboration, after 2 weeks. Well, sometimes, but most of the time you don't. You need to know people more. One interesting finding is they all seem to develop the core semi-periphery type of structure, where, and it's really for the 3 communities, you have 50% of the members who have 5 or less relationships, and between 2 to 5 collaboration. 25% have more than 12 and more than 5 collaborations. And the rest, of course, they have over 12 and over 5 for both kind of type of relationship. And the only difference between the 3 communities in this is in the top kind of those who have the most collaborations and relationships in general. For the training community, we really do have a few people that have their hub. They have huge amount of relationships. While this is not the case, the 2 other communities, you have this 25% of people who have more relationships than other within the group, but it's kind of more or less equal. I mean, there's not a big difference between them. And for the 3 communities, they have very different kind of formal structure. One community, the training community is kind of a bit more hierarchical. I'll talk about this later on. The LAC community is organized around what we call nodes in that it's regionally based, and there are regional groups and transversal groups on thematics like mines or contaminants or network analysis, because we do have a thematic network analysis group throughout Latin America, I'm proud to say. And the method group, they have working groups. Each working group working on a specific methodological issue. So it's very different structure officially, but in the end, in terms of relationship, it's pretty similar. So that's one interesting. So, of course, I could use the random removal of node to see if the network is resilient. But what I prefer to do, it's like, it matters to me what happened to the most central nodes. Most of the time, the most central nodes are the founders of the community. They are the ones through which the newcomers tend to arrive. And they give a lot. Some people would call them leaders or something like that. So I'm interested to see what will happen if they leave. So just to illustrate, I've removed 10% of the highest, the most central node in the collaborative network for approach. So here's what happens. So we still keep one component when we remove of course, we lose a lot of connections. I've been removing the 10 most central nodes. Yeah, in that case, it's not 10, it's 12. And it's still one component. Of course, we get isolates, clearly. People who are only connected to the central nodes. So it's dangerous if you connect to the central people and not to other people. They may leave you alone. This is the method group. And the color relates to the kind of geographical division. That was just to illustrate. We still have, well, now we have two components. Well, the dyad was there to start with. If we come back, the dyad is there. So the main component remain the main component. There's only one person left to keep this component alive. Then, whoops, sorry. The training group, totally different. Now we see that there are two main components that are, if you're curious, very much university-based. And you wouldn't be surprised to hear that one university is English-speaking and 3 are French-speaking. I'm going to let you guess. Okay, challenged with that. I've been showing you a picture like multiplexity was kind of adding relationship. One on top. If you have a relationship, it's good. Well, I think you've seen that I have different types of relationships. So they must not mean the same thing. I think they should not have the same effect. So what to do? What you've seen is all strength being equal. I have strength of ties. And what happened? It looks nice. I like to show the picture. And, I mean, it works. I've written, I don't know how many reports about those teams, for grant agencies. And the granting agency are so happy when I show that the network is connected. But really, does it work? I'm not sure. Like, between you and me here, we're not that sure that connection is necessarily working. And then, well, Johanne talked about this morning, and I'll let her find a solution. She's far better than I am. But I've tried quite a few clustering algorithms, and I'm no specialist of that. And I'm happy that she's going to tell me which one I should take. Because really, they don't give the same result, and you don't make the same interpretation out of them. And I still have very concrete questions. I want to know what makes them tick. Another sociosemantic and social network is their relationship. And there is, I don't know if I've written it at another place, but there's a big challenge here, is the response rate. Of course, like with any group, some people answer and others don't. And we now know that with social networks, we can deal with that, and that most centrality measure, there's a well-known paper by someone whose name I can't remember about that. And so for social network, and truly most of those who don't answer are peripheral actors in the group, and you can manage because you have, of course it's dyads, so those who have, I have good response rates. So I can manage, I have a picture of the whole network, probably pretty accurate, even though I do have some non-respondents. But what happened with the text or the discourse, because that was the other thing. I have 120 people throughout Latin America. I'm not going to go around and interview each of them to have text data. They don't blog. They don't have their own Facebook. Well, some do, but I mean, it's not, I cannot download their text from the internet. I do not have that kind. So I need to have something. So maybe you're going to tell me that was the worst thing I could ever do, but I've decided that the good idea was I was going to have open-ended question in an online questionnaire where online, not for Cuba, for whom I need to have something else because they can't work online. But, and I asked them to define the most important concept related to the work they're doing in their community, and the concepts are chosen by the community. I mean, I've been working with the people in the community saying, okay, what would be the concept we would ask people to define? What are the important concepts for the work we're doing? So I asked them that, and I also have another series of questions, more traditional questions, but open-ended, about do you like the team? So what are the benefits? What were your expectations? What motivates you to participate? That type of things. That's also interesting to analyze because there's also semantic similarities or non-similarity there. But that's what I have in terms of data. Here I show, and I've decided not to show, when I say yes, it's all significant. When I say no, it's not significant. Just trust me on that. It's a lot more clearer to have yes and no than a bunch of figures that just, you know, tell you it is significant. So this is an interesting pattern. So the approach group, it is all significant. So these people, and what it says is if they have a relationship, so if, and it's not even relationship, if they have met through the group for the first time, they are saying stuff that is similar more than if they did not meet through the group, which is normal. Remember that 63% of the relationship were new relationships, so it's logical in a way. Global means all relationship together. So, and relation means, do you consider that your relation was as deepened thanks to the group? Anyway, and you have all the other. It's all correlated, strongly correlated. It's cute. Like the one thing you may want to have if you pretending or if you start with an hypothesis that sociosemantic or discourse is linked with relationship. But the two other groups do not agree that much with me. So the method group, it's only the people who've met through this group that have similarity in their discourse. And I forgot an important thing. I just talked about the challenge of having non-respondent in the qualitative data. Thank you. And most people, they would, even within the respondents, they would answer the social network questionnaire, but not the open-ended one. Too long. So what I did, these correlations are with dyads. I'm taking the dyads for whom I have qualitative data, and I compare them with themselves. That's a solution, but that does not give me that much of a global picture of the whole group and community. That's another challenge. And you have the training group who's yes on many things, except basically collaboration. I made a mess. Thank you. I love those people. Except when it comes to collaboration, to personal relationship, and to the trust, the type of trust that say, I trust that person. That the personal trust is, I trust that person, she won't let me down. while the professional trust is I trust his or her expertise in their field. And so that was one of the surprise. Why would people who collaborate together not resemble one another while in their tasks, while if they are just like kind of having a conversation, they resemble one another? Well, the first question was, and I told you earlier, was that a good idea, after all, to ask them for a definition? And there are interesting differences, and I won't show them here, but there are interesting differences between who's similar on what, depending on the type of task. Like, for example, in the method group, I found, was it the method group? One of the group, like the health people, were the most central in the network of the definition, while, and it's a one-mode network created out of two-mode text by actor type of thing. And the social science people were the most central in the opinion about the team. So it is different. People who resemble one another on the definition of the concept does not necessarily resemble one another on their perception of the team. And then, well, of course, homophily. You've been addressing this a little bit, and the actor-based model is something that does a lot of taking care of that, or taking this into account in a way. And not only this, you'll tell me, I know. And so, but I said, maybe, it's only an attribute thing, and I'm trying to do social network, but basically people resemble one another because they are homophilous on some level. And, well, do you see the pattern, or don't you? I have one explanation to give. So, the two group approach and method, there's a difference between men and women. There is not one in the third group. And what I should tell you is that the two first group are mostly women. Well, one is, well, no surprise, the group that's working on gender is 90% women. And the other group, the Latin American group, has more women than men, but it's not as disproportionate. While the training group, when it comes to the faculties, it's a lot more men than women. Students are mixed. It's 50-50 for students, but faculties are mostly men. Maybe that's the composition that explains that. One explanation from a feminist perspective that comes to mind would be that the woman in a group dominated by men would just adopt the language, while men in a group dominated by women would adopt an opposite language or a different language. That's a theory. There's something that, oops, I wrote it in French. So you is location. Sorry. I'm finished? No. No, it's not. It should be? Okay. Well, I'll stop there. Anyway, I think you get the picture, but I just want to go to the last one because, in fact, it's while having a conversation with Peter yesterday, so thank you. What I'm looking for is patterns. I'm not looking, so I started looking for straight answers, like there's a correlation and it works fine, and we know that sociosemantic relationships are linked with social relationships, trust is important and stuff like that. I won't get a straight answer, so somehow we're looking for patterns. Voila.
Thank you, Johanne. I think we just go to the coffee break, which will probably should be 15 minutes, and I hope we can send around your presentation and maybe to collect some feedback on the patterns in the results you got. Yeah? Yeah. Thank you a lot. I'll see you.